Welcome to the Weekly Huddle podcast. We're back trying to make this intro for like 10 minutes. Someone forgot how to do full screen when they're recording the screen here. Oh, you bring those glasses back. Why do you have those? Didn't you find them on like the ground when we were walking to Pizza Hut one day?
Respect the drip. I'm iced out. Boy.
I hate you.
Don't disrespect. Don't disrespect the shades.
The hard eyeglasses.
The hater blockers. I'm blocking you out right now.
Pretty sure
you're a hater.
Those are 5-year-old girls.
Blocking out the haters.
Who lived over by the high school.
Nah, these are limited edition vintage flamingo pink limited edition visor shades. Limited edition.
I hate you. So, Christian, we've been doing this for a year. Remember when it was a pandemic and I just texted you and I was like, hey, you know how we talk about football all the time? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, you want to do it on a camera? And you're like, sure. And then it took us more time to figure out what to name this thing than it was to actually decide that we were going to do it or not.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Good times. But throwback to when we first started this. So
good times.
We started in May, and by like July, I think either it was in May or in July of the next year, or that year, we did an episode where we went through our favorite team, the Buffalo Bills, and we predicted the roster. And I'm gonna brag a little bit. I did pretty good last time. I got the Darrell Williams and the Reggie Gillum fullback predictions pretty spot on. I don't remember how you did, but I know I got those two pretty good. So I'm hoping that
I did.
I'm hoping I can get some spot on, get some more little predictions here. Even though I doubt it. This was hard. This was harder than last year. Last year they were like, we're good, but they weren't like great. So it's like the roster wasn't really at that deep, and you had some questions at certain positions where like now we have like confirmed, like we know who the starters are at every position. So you don't even have to like, I was predicting Darrell Williams starting at right tackle, but now we have no positions that we need to like predict a starter. Everything's basically locked up, and you just gotta predict who like if there's any like surprising depth moves.
Right.
So, did you break down how many spots you used up on offense and defense specifically? I know I did. I don't know if you did it specifically. I don't know if you want to try to add that up real quick.
I can break it down right now.
Don't worry about it. All right, we'll just start. We'll just go by position. We'll say how many players we have on those positions, and then we will go into it. So, for quarterback, how many players do you have on quarterback on your?
I went 25 on offense.
25. All right, so you have one more than me.
Oh.
So you went even. You went even offense, defense, and then special teams.
Did I really? Wow.
Yeah, that's simple math.
Good job, me.
How many quarterbacks on your roster?
Shut up. I have 2 quarterbacks.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Yeah, that's it. I just, why keep more? We got the MVP. That's all we really need. Josh Allen's just a luxury.
Yeah, I mean,
we all know who's starting.
This coaching staff typically, and like just management system usually keeps 2 quarterbacks anyway. As far back as when they first got here, there was only like Taylor and Peterman. There wasn't any third stringer or anything. So yeah, I have 2 as well. I'm gonna guess you maybe have Josh Allen, perhaps, potentially. I know it might be a lot.
It's a toss up.
And
really.
Then, Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky is the backup.
Mitch Trubisky is the 100% starter. He's gonna carry this team to the Super Bowl. He's gonna ball out like he did with the slime end zones on the Nickelodeon game. It's gonna prove the Bears wrong, baby.
I mean,
the Bears.
He kind of already did that by hanging out 34 points on him in the first half. So.
Yeah, he kind of torched them.
a little bit.
He messed him up a little bit.
Okay, so
a little bit.
We're pretty even there in quarterbacks. This is where I might get a little different here. Running backs. How many did you keep?
Yeah.
How many did you roster?
So, are we including fullback?
Yes, including the fullback.
Then 4.
Okay. I originally had 5 rostered when I first went through and did this. I cut it down to 4. Who are your 4?
So my 4, I have fullback as Gilliam, obviously. And then running back, I have Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Tywan Jones.
Okay, I thought we were going to differ, but we went the same direction. So originally I had Singletary, Moss, Jones, Gilliam, and Breida. But then I thought of this past preseason game they just did with the Bears and how they had Reggie Gilliam, taking snaps as the lone halfback. And he plays fullback / tight end for the rest of the team. And they were, instead of having like Antonio Williams or Matt Breida taking lone halfback snaps, they had to split with him. So they trust him to play running back at some point, or they were testing him out at it. Maybe to try to see if he can take another, like a third spot on the offense and become truly valuable. That's why I think they'll probably only keep the 4, because Jones is a good special teamer, and then Gillum maybe would be our just third string running back itself.
Yeah, and I feel like watching like the preseason games, the only like real polished runner that like looks NFL starter ready is Singletary. I feel like there's like a noticeable drop from Singletary to everyone else when they're running. Especially Breida. Breida, I mean, he's fast, but he's just like, it's. I was going
to ask you, of the players, because there's been a conversation of who's going to be the starting running back, of the players you've seen in the preseason. I know preseason isn't much to put in stock of, and Moss has been hurt most of this offseason. He just got back from a hamstring injury. If you had to guess who the starter was week 1, would you guess Singletary?
I would 100%. I mean, he's beefed up a little bit. He's just more polished as a runner. He's more poised. His balance is impeccable. Compared to everyone else, it's just a fairly noticeable difference. Like, you don't even have to like know football to know that there's a difference between him and everyone else running the ball. Now, when Moss comes back, that's yet to be seen because Moss is injured. But as far as everyone that we've seen, it's definitely Singletary's job to lose. Yeah, which so far he hasn't.
I agree. Okay, so yeah, running back, we're pretty much in agreement. I was surprised. I thought maybe you were going to keep like Breida over Jones or something like that. I didn't think Jones would be someone you'd think you'd want to keep on, but he is that special team ace that they like. So, moving on to tight ends. How many tight ends did you keep?
3 tight ends.
I almost kept 2. I was going back and forth on it. I ended up settling on 3, but because Gillum can play tight end, I thought maybe, they would just, instead of going an I, they could go him, and then maybe if they wanted to put 3 tight ends and a fullback, like in the goal line situation, they just put like a 7th offensive lineman on the line. There were things you could have done to just make it so you only needed 2 tight ends and free up another spot in the roster with how flexible Gillum is, but I eventually settled on going with 3 because injuries, you can't really account for. You have to account for that. Who are your 3 tight ends, and in what order did you put them on depth-wise?
Depth-wise, I put them as Knox, Hollister, and Sweeney.
Okay, I also did that, but I think Sweeney can low-key move up above Hollister. I've always been a big fan of Tommy Sweeney ever since he came out of Boston College. I was a fan of his when he was at Boston College, and I thought he would have been able to take one of those starting roles last year, but he had that heart condition he got, plus COVID, and it was just not good, so he was out all of last season. I think now, as he gets more reps and gets time to play on the on the main roster and during practice throughout the season, I think even though Hollister has looked pretty good in the preseason, I think Sweeney will eventually be the successor as the number 2 tight end. And if Knox, drops off, maybe he can even be the number 1. I'm that high on him.
I don't know if I'm that high. I mean, Knox for right now is the undisputed number 1. I feel like. Number 2, I have Hollister at number 2 just because of his ability in the passing game, like the way that he can. I mean, he's a quick dude for a tight end, right? We've seen during the preseason that he's pretty quick on his feet, and the way he can work the middle, especially like on those curl routes towards the middle, I feel like he just as a weapon on the passing game, I feel like his value puts him at number 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sweeney kind of bumps up to number 2 halfway through the season. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
I agree. And Dawson Knox, he's a converted quarterback. Didn't really catch a lot of balls at Ole Miss, so I know he has the drop season. He was very raw coming out of college, but he's a super athlete. He's a super athlete and he's really good. He needs to really refine his game. We knew it was going to be a slow transition, but if he doesn't put it together, or you think even at this point, do you think tight end should still be a spot where they maybe should make a trade before the season starts for someone like a Zach Ertz or David Njoku or someone out like one of the tight ends out of Tampa Bay, or something like that, where they need to up it and get an actual starter and let Knox, grow as the number 2?
I don't think that we should trade. I think if it's that much of a problem, then, well, one, I don't think it will be that much of a problem. But if Knox doesn't develop as like a solid number 1, then I'll probably see it as more of like a roll with them as a committee rather than someone being just like a number 1 guy until the off season, then either sign someone then or draft someone with like first or second overall, or not overall, first or second round pick there. I don't see us making a trade for one before the season starts.
What about when the trade deadline rolls around? Like, say, week 8, week 9 comes around and we're still struggling to produce at tight end. Do you think they make a move then? Take a swing?
Nah, we're pretty underwhelming when it comes to, besides Diggs, we're kind of underwhelming when it comes to, like, blockbuster trades, especially during the trade deadline. Trade deadline, like, I remember last year, like, it was dead.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything.
The only one I can really think of...
I don't expect much.
The only one I can really think of right now was the Kelvin Benjamin trade in 2017, but we're not going to talk about that. Popeye's biscuit eating.
Oh, yeah.
Tight end.
Oh, it was good times.
All right. I don't know how you divided your offensive linemen, but I divided mine to offensive tackles and interior offensive line. I don't know if you did that same division or if you want to do that right now while I'm talking, but I'll just go ahead. I did it, so I'm going to start with the offensive tackles. I have currently 4 offensive tackles. I originally had 5, but I went back through and I cut one of them. So I have 4 to make room for another player on defense. So how many offensive tackles, specifically tackles, do you have?
Tackles, I have 5.
Okay. So I'm going to read mine off, and then you're going to read off yours just so we can see what we have different here. So I have Deion Dawkins and Darrell Williams, obviously, as our starting left and right. And then I have the 2 rookies, Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle. Those are my 4 offensive tackles. So,
all right. Yep. So I have Williams and Dawkins starting. I have the rookies, Brown and Doyle, in the addition of Ford.
You count Cody Ford as an offensive tackle?
According to the depth chart that I looked up, they had him at tackle, even though Will we play him at tackle. But
okay, so the guy
they had him at tackle, so I'm putting him at tackle.
The guy I originally had down was Bobby Hart, the tackle who was from Cincinnati. They signed because he has like 70 games of starting experience and stuff like that, but he's really bad. He's so bad. He was bad in Cincinnati. He's been bad in the preseason. He might be a guy they want to keep just for depth at tackle, who has starting experience, who can come in and play in a pinch. But even then, he's just so bad. I'm sorry. I don't like Bobby Hart.
No, don't even keep him as depth.
It's like
he is a human turntable. Do not keep him as depth.
Like, even though
you are asking for Josh Allen to get injured.
He has the brains of a starter and can help with the rookies, but so do the starting tackles. So I mean, like, you don't need to bring that guy in as depth, and you can have. They like guys who are flexibility and position wise, which is why in my interior offensive lineman I kept a guy or 2 that can be offensive tackles. So we'll just flip over that real quick. I technically have 5. I'm counting 5 interior offensive linemen, but like I said, 2 of them can be tackles, and I'll get into that when I read them off. How many interior offensive linemen do you have?
I have 4.
Okay, so we have the same number of offensive linemen. I'm assuming we just flipped one player from one position to the other, but I had Feliciano, Cody Ford at guard, Ike Botger, Mitch Morse, and then Ryan Bates, which Ford and Ryan Bates are my guys who can play both guard and tackle. Feliciano is my backup center, and then Botger is my back. Either Botger or Ford are going to be the starting guard, and the other one will be the backup, and then Ryan Bates will be your swing tackle. But Bates can play all 5, so he's more of a flexible guy.
Right. So for mine, I had, not including Ford because I had him at tackle, but we basically both had Ford. Mitch Morse at center. We had John Feliciano. We had Ike. And then I decided to keep Jack Anderson.
Jack Anderson? I was debating him. Just a little spoiler, I just did a quick little practice squad at the end, and I put him on there as he was a 7th round pick for the Bills this year. I liked his play in the preseason, but Ryan Bates has the flexibility to play every single position offensive line, from left tackle to right tackle. He's technically a backup center right now, but he can play tackles. He's very so they like that flexibility, and he wouldn't be able to play on the practice squad because he's been our backup for 2 years now, and he's been our swing tackle recently. So I think they'll keep him on there just for his flexibility and the fact that they want to start him at swing tackle. He's pretty athletic. Just for, he's additional depth for
now thinking about it, I was thinking about it. I just now thinking about it, it probably would be smarter to keep Bates. The way I was thinking about it was specifically because of practice squad and being able to keep Anderson on there, as well as having him as a lock on there so nobody else can steal him, having him as one of those 4 spots.
Yeah.
As opposed to Bates, who you just kind of have to chop him off. So.
Oh, yeah. So those were the offensive linemen. And then to round out the offense, we go to wide receivers. How many wide receivers did you keep?
So I don't know if this is controversial or not, because I've seen a lot of people keep 6, but I kept 7.
Okay. So when we were doing this, we were talking to each other as we made our rosters, and we didn't disclose who we kept or anything or what the numbers were. But at the end of the thing, you had like what, 49, 53. I finished with a clean even. My first draft, I had 53 already all locked up perfectly. 53. You had 49. So was wide receiver one of those spots where you had less guys and just added on more when you realized you had more spots?
Wide receiver was one of those spots where I decided to add on one when I realized I had more spots available. Okay. I expected to only keep 6, but didn't realize I had the available space to keep 7.
Okay, so the defense is going to be pretty different then, because I only have 6 wide receivers, and I'm curious to see where you did the other 3 guys, because you had 3 open spots, and I didn't, so I want to see
and I believe all of those are on defense. So yeah, I'm
excited to see what you did on defense. But go ahead and read me off your wide receivers, and I'm assuming I'm going to have all 6 of guys I picked are going to be within your 7, but I want to hear where your 7th guy is. I have a guess.
Yeah, so mine are top, basically 5 are all locks, and that's Diggs, Beasley, Davis, Sanders, and McKenzie.
Yep.
And then after you get to those 5, that's where it gets really tricky. In my situation where we keep 7, I have us keeping Jake Kumaro as well as Marquez Stevenson. I have us keeping both of those guys. I'm interested to see who you decided to keep, if when it's one of those guys or if it's neither of those guys.
So before I get, okay, I'll just say first. I did, the top 5 you said were locked. Those I agree with. I kept Kumaro just because he's been showing out in practice. He has good chemistry with both quarterbacks, or starter and backup, and he brings that size that you're lacking outside of Davis. I was also considering Stevenson or Isaiah Hodgins here, but they're both practice squad eligible, and I don't think anyone really take them up. Stevenson's a good returner, so I thought about it, but at the same time, I was like, we have McKenzie doing return duties, and then if anything, we just pull him up if we're not satisfied with McKenzie as a returner. As someone who was a big Duke Williams fan, I'm surprised you didn't try to maybe discuss him as on the main roster.
Nah, Duke Williams is kind of, I don't know, I feel like we've moved on to the new age. That was kind of the old age Bills. Duke Williams was kind of like the guy that you really wanted to make it on there. But now with this wide receiver room, it's really hard to crack this wide receiver room. And I think the guys that we said are even going into Hodgins and maybe some of the other guys that are getting third string reps could be placed above him, especially after he made some good catches when he was actually playing, but I feel like that one catch that he had, I believe it was against Houston, if I'm not mistaken, where he dropped the ball and it was big, it could have won us the game. I feel like that was kind of the nail in the coffin as far as his career as a potential starter on the Bills goes.
Yep, I also think because his big claim to getting a roster spot was that he was a big-bodied guy. He brought size to this receiver room, who's all under 6 foot and everything like that. But I think Diggs is 6'1", Kumero's 6'4", Hodgins is 6'4", 6'5", Davis is 6'3". So we have size now, and I think that those guys are younger and bring more all around than Duke Williams does. He was a good story, but I just think that he gets passed over by these guys who have shown out better than him in practice and in the preseason. Let me just check. All right. Take another break for a second. I want to see how long we've been recording, because we might just split this into 2 episodes. 1 offense, 1 defense. Okay, we've been recording for 25 minutes. Yeah, all right. So we'll end that one here, and then we'll do another episode on defense. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to do an outro real quick, and then stop the recording, start it again, and then we'll do another one. So we're going to stop the recording here for this episode of the podcast because we've taken up almost 30 minutes right now just going over the offense. We're going to come back next week and do the defensive starters and special teams, go through all of our players. Right now we've gotten through half the roster with very minor differences. I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot more differences on the defense, though, because I made my hard decisions here, and I'll explain more with how I made my changes before. I don't know how you feel about your defense. I'm pretty confident in the players I've picked, even though if they're a little off the board, maybe not what's actually going to happen.
I feel great.
So, any closing words for this episode?
MVP. Mitch Trubisky, GOAT. That's all I gotta say.
Did you right before we get done with this, did you know why when he got drafted he wanted people to start calling him Mitchell instead of Mitch because he wanted to hear people calling him Mitch the bitch because that was a popular chant people would chant at him.
Really?
So he asked people to call him Mitchell, but that never happened. So you said MVP for Mitch, and I was like, it's kind of funny that he didn't want to be called Mitch anymore, but. That's just a side note. Yeah, we'll be back next week with the defense, and we hope to see anyone who views this one next week as well.